Hi, my name is Deanna Katwana, and I am a postdoc at CAPS. If this is the first time that you are tuning in with us, this is the second video of the Stress and Anxiety Management Workshop series. If you haven't watched the first video, I strongly encourage you to do that because it basically breaks down what anxiety is, how we experience it physically and mentally, and how can we assess it for ourselves. So in this video, I will be talking about ways to calm the body when we're physically anxious. So just to give an overview of what the Stress and Anxiety Workshop series is, it's a 4-week series that talks about ways research has shown to be effective in managing anxiety and stress that we experience on a day-to-day. So I will be using week 2's packet, and I've already filled out the questions, but you can also access this packet underneath this video. You can access it right now and follow through or follow along with me as I go through some of the examples that are provided in the packet, or you can access it at a later time. But the questions are really there to be used as a guide that can tailor this specific series to meet your specific needs. So I guess we can start by talking about the mind and body connection. So the mind and our bodies are intricately connected, which means that our physical state impacts our thoughts, and our thoughts can impact our physical state. That's why when we may be experiencing like worry or fear, we recognize it in our bodies, and we might recognize that our bodies tense up. So for example, if you are worried that you might not do as well on an exam, or a final exam, to be realistic, you might experience maybe some shortness in your breath, some increased heart rate, maybe some perspiration, and you might also experience like just your body tensing up. In the last video, Maggie mentioned that she experiences stress headaches, and that's something that I experience as well. I also experience some stiffness or tenseness in my abdominal area. So these fight or flight responses are activated, and it lets our bodies know that we might be experiencing a crisis, and it brings about fear-based emotions. So when our flight and fight responses are activated, it basically shuts down the thinking or logical or reasonable parts in our brains, and our emotions will take over. So that's why it's really important to find ways to physically relax, because physical relaxation of the body informs the brain that we are no longer in crisis, and it allows those thinking and logical parts to take control. So it's important that we interrupt the automatic central nervous system response to anxiety, because that is central to the physical anxiety that we experience when we're having worry or fear or experiencing negative thoughts. So we might not be able to control the thoughts that we're having most days, and that's okay, but we can learn how to control our response to them. And so in this video, we will be learning ways of how you can control your response when you do experience stress or worry or even anxiety. And then in next week's video, you will be learning new cognitive responses to stress and anxiety. So to start off, I want to really highlight the 4 main things that I will be talking about in today's exercises, and that is breathing, muscle relaxation, moving our bodies, and shifting our focus. So those are the four main components that are necessary when dealing with some physical anxiety and can be helpful in relieving those worries and that stress. So to start off, I want to reintroduce the anxiety scale that Maggie provided explanation and did so well in explaining how we can utilize the anxiety scale. I think it's very helpful in managing our anxiety, maybe on a day-to-day basis or even a weekly basis. And so in this workshop, in this series, we will be talking about utilizing the scale again. But first, I want you to recognize what are some of the early warning signs you might experience when you're physically anxious. So for me, some of the things that I had mentioned earlier in this video are my shoulders get tense, my abdominal muscle, they tighten up, and sometimes it's also really hard for me to physically relax when I'm lying in the bed, when I'm trying to go to sleep. So what are some of the early warning signs that you notice when you might be feeling some physical anxiety? And then the second question asks, on average, what was your level of anxiety this past week? So for me, I rated my level of anxiety this past week at a 5. I wasn't extremely anxious, but I was not anxious. I was not anxious, if that makes sense. And so I was kind of in the middle. And so the follow-up question asks, what helped lower your anxiety this past week? Some things that helped lower my anxiety within the past week were talking to my friends, going for a walk, getting some physical movement. That really helped me to lower my anxiety this past week. So what did you do differently this past week, and what were the results? One of the things that I did differently this past week was to maintain a sense of schedule. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity about when this thing is going to finally end, and when we are going to be able to go out and physically connect with other people. So I feel a sense of more control when I am able to maintain some sense of a schedule, some sense of consistency. So this week I tried to maintain a sense of schedule. It allowed me to stay on task. So that was one of the results of maintaining a sense of schedule. And then also I spent less time on social media, which is a big goal for me during this time. The last question asks, what did you notice about times when you were not anxious? So physically, I noticed that my muscles were less tense. I noticed that I was better able to sleep at night because my body was relaxed. And I also noticed that my mind wasn't racing. So I was able to focus better during certain tasks. My mind wasn't wandering. And then so the last question asks, what challenges to reducing anxiety did you encounter this week? I think one of the main challenges for me that made it difficult to reduce stress and anxiety when I experienced it were upcoming deadlines. Deadlines for me are one of my triggers to anxiety and stress, especially if they are coming up within a matter of days. Maybe for you, upcoming final exams, those might be some challenges to reducing anxiety. But I really want to encourage you to answer these questions because it allows you to assess what are some things that might be keeping you from managing your anxiety or reducing your day-to-day stress, but it also allows you to evaluate what are some of the things that I did differently this week that I'm not doing, that I didn't do last week that might have had an impact in lowering my stress and anxiety. So the second exercise is the physical activities that you can do, and not just physical activities. Some of these activities are focusing on refocusing your attention, shifting your focus, moving your body, relaxing your muscles, and breathing. So what are some of the things that you're already doing to physically relax? So is that taking a run? Is that taking a walk? Taking a bubble bath? Meditating? Doing some yoga? Like, what are some of the things that you're already doing that you're already seeing an effect on your stress levels? In this list, they list exercise, abdominal breathing, which can also be referred to as deep breathing, muscle scan or progressive relaxation, which is a good way to kind of become more aware of when your muscles are tense versus when your muscles are relaxed. And one of the easiest things you can do to recognize this difference is to ball your fist up really tight for a few seconds and recognize how tense your forearms may feel or how tense your hands may feel. And then after a few minutes, slowly release them and recognize how relaxed your forearms may become or how relaxed your fingers may be. But progressive muscle relaxation is taking different groups of the body's muscles, tensing them for a few seconds, and then relaxing them for a few seconds. So you can do this with your face, scrunching up your face really tight and releasing that for a few seconds. You can lift up your shoulders for a few seconds and then finally releasing. You can point your toes and stretch out your legs for a few seconds and releasing. It just allows you to bring that awareness of like, what do my muscles feel like when they're really tense versus when they're really relaxed? Sensory awareness or grounding exercises. So a good sensory awareness exercise you can do is to just focus your attention on each of your 5 senses at a time for maybe a minute or so. So taking time to focus your attention on the sounds that you're listening to at this moment. Taking a minute to focus on the things that you might be smelling at this moment. Taking some time to focus your attention on things that you might be seeing at this moment. And each time you're actually staying present in the present moment, and it's not allowing your mind to kind of wander and think about future tense things or past mistakes or past things that you might have regretted the day before. The next one is scale your anxiety and watch it drop. That's similar to what we did at the beginning of our exercises. It's just doing that maybe daily or weekly, or even maybe doing it throughout the day to see if your anxiety drops throughout the day. And then also recognizing like, so what, like during that period of time, like what was going on that made it increase or what was going on that made it decrease. That's a good way to recognize, some of your triggers. Walking meditation, that's a good one to also stay grounded and stay in the present moment. I know we have a lot of free time right now, so maybe getting some physical exercises and shifting your focus to looking at the beautiful scenery around you, or looking at how many cars go by when you're walking. That's a good way to shift your focus, and also move your body. Stretches and yoga. Um, Yoga is a good way to practice deep breathing and moving your body, because a lot of the poses require you to breathe through your nose and out through your mouth. So that's a good way to incorporate those two. And it also relaxes your muscles, because the more we move our muscles, the more tension we're actually releasing from them. Imagery is a good way to shift your focus. Maybe imagining yourself at your favorite place in the whole wide world. For me, it's Disney World, or on some type of beach, other than the four walls of my apartment. Distractions are a good way to shift your focus. Maybe calling up a friend or watching a funny YouTube video could distract your mind. Meditation or mindfulness, those are also good ways to kind of calm the mind, calm the body. And then there are a few spaces where you can provide your own ways to physically relax. So for me, I love to dance. So I will have dance parties whenever, especially if my favorite song comes on and I'm in the middle of cooking, I will dance right in the middle of the kitchen. So just get creative. What are some ways that you can physically relax? And then also, just to reiterate what I've been saying before, is that you want to make sure that these exercises are either focusing on breathing, relaxing your muscles, moving your body, or shifting your focus, or a combination of them. And you can maybe incorporate one exercise for 1 week and dedicate it for that week, and then maybe choose another exercise the next week, and then start to incorporate different activities to become physically relaxed. So the last page, it helps you to set goals for the week. And then at the bottom of that page, you will see different links that can be helpful, different apps and podcasts that you can use to help with managing stress and anxiety. And then at the very last page is a calming breath exercise. And this is one of the techniques that's most important skill in managing your anxiety. It helps you calm your body and calm maybe some muscles that you might not recognize are very tense. It relaxes those muscles, and it also shifts your focus, which is necessary for managing anxiety. Practicing calming breath, or what I refer to as deep breathing, at least a few minutes throughout the day can definitely change the tone in your day. So before you're picking up your cell phone or logging into your computer to start your assignments, give yourself a few minutes in your day to just be still and just to practice deep breathing. We don't have time to do the exercise today, but there is a script at the back of this packet. It's this paragraph that you can utilize to practice deep breathing. And you can also incorporate some affirmations in there that can just even take your deep breathing exercise to the next level. So there are some affirmations provided at the bottom of the sheet that can be very helpful. Maybe I am centered, relax, breathe. Just a small statement that you can utilize to repeat over and over again that can allow you to kind of be grounded in that moment and be centered and be present and appreciate the stillness that you're giving to yourself. So those are just a few activities and exercises you can do to relax the body, to calm the body when you're feeling stressed or when you're feeling anxious. And these are some of the things that I feel like have been helpful for me. And I hope that they've been helpful. They will be helpful for you. I want to thank you for staying with me through this entire video if you have stuck around. And I hope that you are taking care of yourself, and I hope that you will incorporate some of the exercises in this series within your next week. So take care and be well. Bye.